How are you solving that problem? Are you providing a product? Are you providing a service? Are you creating a platform? Are you creating a website? What is it? Is it an app? Is it a service? What is it? So solution is, for example, when it comes to Swiggy, because we were taking Swiggy up, the solution that Swiggy offers is an app from where you can order anything, any dish from any restaurant in and around you, and it will be delivered to your doorstep, right? So it was a very simple solution. Let's create an app where we get all the drivers on board. We get all the basically delivery partners on board. We get all the restaurants on board, and we get all the people on board. So there are three parts to it: delivery people, restaurants, and consumers. Get them on board. Let the consumer pick whatever dish he or she wants to order from any restaurant, and then the delivery guy will go to the restaurant, pick up the food, and deliver it to the customer. So the solution was to build an app which provides logistical supports for restaurants to deliver any dish to the customer. This is the solution of Swiggy. Okay, so similarly, what is the solution of Big Basket? Big Basket offers you to buy anything, any grocery, any daily requirement, and it will be delivered to you on the doorstep. So it's a logistical company, again, because it picks up things from a particular store and delivers it to you. So the service they are providing is logistical, and the product that they are offering is an app. Okay, similarly, what is the product of InShots? InShots is an app which summarizes news in 60 words and presents it to you in a very convenient way. So that is the solution. So similarly, please, I think I think I have made enough examples. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. I'm not able to see the chat section now. Let me just see if I can again see that. Got it. Awesome. Yeah, so if you have any questions, you can ask me right now on solution, because there's not much explanation. I take 1 or 2 questions and then I'll move on to the next part. Till then, the others can write down the solution. A solution can be an app, it can be a product, it can be a service, it can be a platform, it can be a website, it can be an Instagram page, it can be anything. Okay, what is your main business? It can be a product, like for example, if you're trying to solve the problem of making rotis. Making roti is such a pain, right? And young folks like us, we are terrible at doing that. So there's a company which came up with ready-made rotis. Okay, I go and buy it from Freshco, which is a supermart here. I go in, I pick up 2 packets of it. I come in 6 seconds, I just put it on the tawa, the roti is ready. Such a brilliant product. And the product over here is pre-cooked or pre-made rotis that just need to be warmed. So the problem it is trying to solve is that young people like me can't make rotis. So it can be a very simple thing like a website, a in-hand product. It can be a service. It can be an app. Whatever it is that you wish to create.
Zishan, two questions have come in. One Ismail is asking whether solution refers to marketing, and another one is what is the solution of a product's website?
I didn't get the next question, which is solution of a product's website. I think I need more insights on what he's trying to say. But in terms of is the solution marketing? Solution is not marketing. Okay, let me give you a fair idea. Okay, let me talk about a concept called a minimum viable product. Now, remember, I'll take a little bit of time over here. Okay, so just give me some time. When a startup starts and when it's trying to solve a problem, there needs to be a solution to the problem, right? And that is what we are trying to write in the 4th segment. Now, this solution doesn't need to be a full-fledged product. It can be something very small. For example, when Swiggy started, Swiggy did not start as an app. Swiggy started as a WhatsApp group of 5 restaurants and 25 people in a locality. That is how Swiggy started. The founders themselves picked up the orders from the restaurant and delivered it to these 25 people. So that is exactly how Swiggy started. Similarly, if you look at Flipkart's story, Flipkart didn't start with thousands of product onto the website. It started with Sachin and Binny Bansal handing out bookmarks in front of this Blossom bookstore in Bangalore. I keep visiting it whenever I'm in Indiranagar, and they just handed out these leaflets to and bookmarks to these people coming out. They went on to Flipkart.com. There were 10 or 20 books there. They could only order these 20-25 books, and that is how Flipkart started. Similarly, My Captain started as WhatsApp groups where we put a mentor, we put 20 people there, and they had sessions on WhatsApp. They didn't even have live video calls, right? And we mailed them content over emails and etc. etc. So this is what is the solution? If you have a problem that you're trying to solve, what is the quickest solution that you can build and put it into the market is what you should be writing down in the solution segment here. Are we now clear? If you think you are clear, just write down yes. If you think you have more questions, we can spend some time. This is important. Like I said, this segment of 4, 5, 6, 7 is very intense. It will take some 10 minutes to be covered each. Okay, we are clear. I think we are all clear. Awesome. So understand that when you're starting a company, you don't need to start with an entire app or a website. There are so many examples. InShot started as a Facebook page. Okay, Terribly Tiny Tales started off as a Facebook page. And in the page, they tried to sell whatever they tried to provide whatever service possible. There's so many handmade jewelry startups. There's so many home bakeries and home food delivery, home food startups which are started by young folks and by young women in the community here and there. They all start from Instagram pages. They all start from WhatsApp groups. And in fact, 2 days ago, my mom launched a small company, a small startup, which is from an Instagram page. So she started an Instagram page where she started selling, T-shirts for cats. Okay, so she's a huge cat lover. She has 20 cats at home, and she started making T-shirts for cats, and she started selling it on Instagram now. So you don't need to have a big app or a website or a product as such. You can start with simple Instagram, WhatsApp groups, and take it forward. This concept is called a minimum viable product. Okay, are we clear?
Before moving on, we'll just take one last question from Zainab Sodawala. Yeah. Now she said, just like YouTube, is it a good strategy to create a problem that doesn't exist and sell a solution to that problem? Is that good marketing strategy or a simple way to earn money through customer loyalty?
Okay, very, very beautiful and brilliant question. So YouTube, I don't think it was launched in a space where there wasn't a problem. There was definitely a problem that people couldn't share videos online, right? And artists couldn't really put out the music, or people who wanted to share any kind of videos were not able to do it. So there was a very strong existing problem that existed onto the internet when YouTube came in. Secondly, you're asking is simply a way of earning money through customer loyalty. I don't really understand that structure. What we are trying to probably say is what we call as an eyeball model, which is like how Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube earn money. The way they earn money is that they have a lot of traffic onto the platform, and all of this is free users, and they start running advertisements, and they charge companies to run advertisements on this platform. And based on the views on the video, based on the engagements on the video, based on the demography, based on number of ads, etc., they earn money out of it. So I think that is what you're trying to say. I'm not too sure.
But basically, what she's trying to ask is whether it is a good strategy to create a solution for a problem which does not exist at all.
For a problem that doesn't exist at all.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah. I think, see, there are a lot of times when the people do not realize that there is a problem. But if you're able to create enough awareness, they might realize that it is a problem. It happened in our case. So in our case, we were trying to be these rebels in the system, where we said we don't want all of our students to do engineering, law, and medicine. We don't believe in that concept. We want them to be artists. We want them to be writers, and we want them to be filmmakers, and we want them to be designers, and whatever is it that they wish, right? And initially, when we launched it in 2013, we launched it in Chennai, and you know how the Chennai crowd is, right? They didn't accept it. They said, this is crap, this is bullshit, okay, this is not something that can work in India. Nobody is going to become try to learn music and learn filmmaking and photography and writing. People want to learn coding, you teach coding. Okay, and we're like, no, that is not true. That is what you think, but that is not what the market wants. In the market, there's an internal desire to learn these things as well. And then we thought, even though the market tells me that this is not a problem, I believe that it is a problem. So let's stick on to it. Let's give it 2 to 3 years. The societal mindset will change. And today, if you go to a student if you go to a class in Chennai, if I went to Sindhi Mandal School, I went to CVV, I went to basic Chettinad, I went to PSBB, all of these, Shishya, etc. And I asked them the same question there. And I asked the students there, how many of you want to become engineers and doctors today? And very surprisingly, in 2019, only 10% of the hands went up. The same class, if I would have gone in 2013, there would have been at least 90 to 80% of the hands going up. So over time, the demography changes. Over time, certain people, the awareness of a problem that they might be facing comes in later point of time, you need to be patient. So there's a very important saying in startups: sometimes you launch too soon, sometimes you launch before the market is ready. Sometimes it is a deal breaker because you might not find any customers. But luckily, when we launched in a market which was not facing this problem, we had a significant user base which helped us sustain to a point of today, where today we train 12,000 students in a month. In 2013, 2015, we were training only 60 students in a month, right? So over time, the market evolves. Over time, a problem is realized, and you need to be patient. For example, Flipkart, Amazon, all of them created niches where problems were not perceived. If you wanted to buy a phone, you could walk across the street, or you could just go to a nearby store and buy it, right? People didn't see that as a problem. Over time, people believed that it is a problem, and they got bought in.
Zishan, okay,
Any
we can
other
continue
thing?
now. I think you've been very, I think, clear and very, I think you answered to that particular question. So I think we can move on because we have time is pressing also.
Yeah, sure. So the next thing is unfair advantage, which is the fifth point. I think it is fairly not needed, and in the early stages of a startup, because not many of you will have it. Unless until you don't have a patent, unless and until you have something very unique and novel, you won't have an unfair advantage. I'll list down a few unfair advantages that a company or a startup can have. They can have a patent. They can be the first movers or the first ever company to do something. That can be an unfair advantage. They can be loaded with cash and be super funded. That can be an unfair advantage. They can have founders with 30-35 years of experience or huge experience or talent. That can be an unfair advantage. So typical unfair advantages that you can write down is: you have a lot of money. B is you are the first player in the market. C, you have a patent that cannot be copied. D is the founders have 30, 35 years, 15, 20, 25 years of experience in that field. So they come up with that knowledge. So these are typical unfair advantages. Swiggy's unfair advantage was actually the design. Swiggy's app design is amongst the best designs in the world. There are case studies written on Swiggy, and the founders of Swiggy believe in design, right? So they have a very, very, very extensive and very large design team inside, which does design research, which studies whether a button on the left or a button on the right is going to get you more sales. They study whether this message should be written in this way or that way. So Swiggy's unfair advantage was A, that the founders were very design driven, and they have a extremely brilliant world-class design team that nobody can match. B, they are heavily funded. They are funded beyond measure, that nobody can catch on to that. So these are the two very strong unfair advantages Swiggy had when they started. Today, Swiggy's advantage is that they have an extensive delivery network, and they have a very extensive exclusive restaurant partner network. So these are the unfair advantages that Swiggy has. We'll just move on to the next part, which is revenue streams, because unfair advantage is not something that you can immediately think about. think about it over time when you go back home and move on. Now we are entering the finance part of things. So this is where things get serious. Okay, so I just want a little more seriousness in the classroom right now, because we are going to be talking money. We are going to be talking about how startups can make money and what are the different ways startups make money. First and foremost, in sixth part, which is the revenue stream, is you need to identify who is going to pay you and how are they going to pay you. Okay. For example, for Swiggy, the customer pays the restaurant, and Swiggy takes a commission from the restaurant. So it's a commission-based model. Second revenue model that Swiggy has, it charges a delivery fee to you directly, which goes into the pocket of Swiggy. Okay, a part of commission is paid to the delivery guy. So for Swiggy, the model is very simple. They charge a commission for every dish that you order from the restaurant, and then they charge a delivery fee to you, which goes directly into them. Okay, very clear. This is a commission-based model and a service-based model. They apply both of them. They apply a service-based delivery fee. Okay, so they are charging you for the service, which is the delivery fee. And then they apply a commission model, which is they take a commission per order from the restaurant. Very clear. Now let's look at what does Flipkart and Amazon do. Flipkart, Amazon completely are based on, if you ignore the delivery fee, they are completely based on the commission model. So they take anywhere between 18 to 35% commission per product, or depending on the stream of product that you are in. Okay. Let's look at InShots. InShots does what we call as an eyeball model. Okay, or charging based on advertisement. So for them, it is pay per view. So depending on how many people view the ad on the platform, they're going to charge the company a particular fee. So Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, InShots, all of them make money through advertisements. For companies to do that, you need to have a high volume of users on your platform. You need to have tremendous amount of traffic coming onto your platform every single day to be engaging with the content there. And in between the content, the company like Facebook, Google, YouTube, InShots is going to put an ad. Okay, I'll tell you a very fun fact. InShots charges 8 lakh rupees for one post. So if I have to talk about a post on InShots that my captain releases this course, they're going to charge me 8 lakh rupees for one post. And in a day, they have at least 20 to 30 posts there. So they make 2.5, 3 crores a day because they have 100 million users onto the platform. And these 100 million users came on for free. So that's what we call as a model. There's an eyeball model. So there's a commission model, service model. Okay, there's thousands of other direct sales models as well. For example, Chumba, It Up, all of these sites which sell apparel, products, etc. It's a direct sale model. You pay for buying the product, you pay the fee to them. They make gross revenue, gross margins out of it, and they make profits. So are we clear? Are we clear on the various models in a startup that you can make money? One is the advertisement-based eyeball model like YouTube, Google, Facebook, Instagram, etc. InShots. Another is a platform model like Uber, Ola, Swiggy, Flipkart, Amazon, which charge you a commission. Then there's a service model. For example, My Captain, we charge you a fee for the course that we deliver. So you're paying us for the service we provide you. Dhobi Ghat, which is an online laundry service. Then there is, what do you call it? Other service delivery companies like Practo. Practo is also a platform model, but more on the lines of, you pay for a particular service that you avail from them. There is another company, if you know, wakilsearch.com. A lot of lawyers would know that. There is indiafilings.com. All of them charge you for the service that they provide you. And basically you deliver service online and you get paid for it. So that is, another model. And these are, there's the product model, which is you just do a sale and you make money out of that sale. So are we clear? Are we clear of all the, can we just look at the chat if you have anything? Because this is a very important part. I summed it up in 5 minutes. I told you about Swiggy. How does Swiggy make money? I told you about all the other startups as well. If you have a question, you can ask me right now. Otherwise, we can move on to the cost structure. Whatever the moderator tells me, I'll do that.
Zishan, we'll just take just one doubt Sara Karachi has. What is lifetime value?
Okay, lifetime value is again, something that you need to focus on later in your startup, not right now. It's something that we focus on at a venture stage. So, lifetime value is on an average, a customer. How much is the customer paying you over a period of 5 to 10 years, depending on your company and which industry you're in. So, industries like consumer tech, which is basically Hotstar and Swiggy and all of these things which have value throughout their lifetime. You look at how many orders has a person placed on Swiggy over a period of 6 months. What is the average value of the order? And then you put an inflation on it, and then you project it for the next 10 years. So you'll get something like 5 lakh, 4 lakh rupees for Swiggy. So that's the average amount that a person is going to spend on Swiggy over a period of 10 years. Okay, so for example, my customer segment, I will spend roughly around 3,000, 4,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees a month on Swiggy. That will be coupled with inflation, and it will be put on to a projection of 10 years, because Swiggy will cater me for at least 10 years till the time from 18 years of age till 28, till I get a family or whatever, right? So roughly I'll spend around 9 lakh rupees on Swiggy. So that's the lifetime value of Swiggy, right? For Hotstar, it will be, let's say Hotstar subscription is 500 rupees a year. Now, on an average, a person will subscribe to this service for 8 to 10 years, and they will do the math. They will see for 100 customers what is the behavior. Out of 100 customers, 40 of them pay for 2 years, 60 of them will pay for 3 years. Whatever it is, they'll do the math. They'll put the amount that has come in, total amount that has come in for 10 years for this 100 customers, and they will average it out for per customer, and that will be the lifetime value. Are you getting my point? If 100 customers pay you 6 lakh rupees over 10 years, then you divide that and you get the average lifetime value. Now that doesn't mean that all the 100 customers paid you 6 lakhs. It might mean that 50% of the customers paid you 8 lakhs, and the other 50% of the customers paid you 4 lakhs. So you have to do an average. You have to project that average over 10 years, and that amount is called the lifetime value. But that is not something that you need to focus on at early stages. That is something that we, after 5 years of building a company, today start looking at. Okay, right now, past 6 months, we have started focusing on that. So it's a long thing. Don't go into that at the moment. Okay, any other question?
One last question before you move on to the next segment is 2-3 people have asked this question. What is the earning model for WhatsApp?
Oh, WhatsApp doesn't have an earning model. WhatsApp was completely based on how much user base it had, how much value it created, and Facebook was very keen on knowing and acquiring these many customers onto the platform, so they bought it out. See, the US ecosystem of startups is very different. Okay, but understand that India doesn't play baseball. India plays cricket. So don't try to copy anything from the West. Don't try to copy any startups from the US. The economy is very different. The purchase pattern is different. The venture capitalist industry is different. Over there, you get funded based on the number of customers you have, not based on the money that you're making. In India, you get funded based on both how many customers you have, how many users, downloads, etc. you have, how much data you have, and how much of revenue are you making. So WhatsApp was okay. I think that's a random noise. All right. So like I said, WhatsApp was bought at $18 billion because of the sheer number of customers it had, the value overall it created as a company, and the value not in terms of money, but value in terms of how much it was deep rooted into the usage of a daily user. Now, how does Facebook make money out of it? Facebook makes money out of it. Just try to send a text to your friend and write down Reebok shoes, and wait for 2 to 3 hours. You will see a Reebok shoe ad on Facebook. So they are able to mine that and start showing you ads accordingly.
Okay, Zishan, that was. I think we can move on to the next segment now.
Okay, the next segment is cost structure. I think this all of us, especially from the business backgrounds, will know. Calculate each and every rupee that has gone into building your company or building your product, right? So cost structure is about each and every expense that your company is going to bear to provide the product or provide the service that you're trying to do to run the company, right from salaries to rent to purchase of raw materials to building the product to providing the service to doing the marketing and amount that you spend on marketing versus number of customers that come in. So here I will give you one very new term which traditional businesses would not know. It's called a customer acquisition cost, which means that if I put a billboard, okay, right outside, let's say, I don't know, Nungambakam, okay, somewhere in a premium spot in Nungambakam, I put a billboard. Probably it will cost me 6, 7, 8 lakhs a month. I don't know the prices. 8 lakhs a month, and I put in an offer. I say, call this number, get 50% off on this watch. I am a watch company. I put an ad. I say, call this number, get 50% off on this watch, and buy it from us, whatever. Then I start measuring. If I spent 8 lakhs, how many calls did I get? Did I get 10,000 calls? Okay, if I got 10,000 calls, how much money I spent per call? So that means that out 8 lakhs divided by 10,000, whatever amount that comes on to, is the amount that I spent to get each call. Now, out of 8,000 calls or 1,000 calls, whatever, how many of these calls converted into customers? Did 20 people buy? Did 50 people buy? Did 100 people buy? Let's assume that 100 people bought. So you spent 8 lakh rupees and 100 people bought. So how many? That's 8,000 rupees. Yeah, 8,000 rupees per customer. So your customer acquisition cost is 8,000 rupees, right? And now there's something else that we saw, right, which is the lifetime value. Let's say the lifetime value is that this customer is going to buy 2 watches in 10 years and he's spending 10,000 rupees per watch. The lifetime value is 20,000 rupees then, because two watches in a period of 10 years spending 10,000 rupees each. So you have 20,000 rupees that you will generate from this customer over a period of 10 years. But you spent 8,000 rupees to get that customer in, right? So then in startups, we measure this. We measure what is the customer acquisition cost and we measure what is the lifetime value. And at any particular point of time, the customer acquisition cost should be at least 1/3 of the lifetime value. So if your customer acquisition cost is 8,000 rupees, the lifetime value should be minimum 24,000 rupees. Otherwise, you need to work around your budget, and you need to work around your marketing strategy, and probably you should have run ads on Facebook instead of spending 8 lakh rupees on Nungabakam's billboard. So this is something that companies need to do, startups need to do, is find out what is their CAC versus LTV, which is basically customer acquisition cost versus lifetime value. And lifetime value should always be 3 times to 5 times more than the cost of acquisition of the customer. Okay, understood? Do we have any questions here? Cost structure involves each and every cost that you will bear to build your product or build your service, and you should be very clear about those. Any questions? I'm not able to see the chat. So
yeah, Zishan, there's only one question, by Yusuf Merchant. How do you measure the impact of advertisement? I don't know whether it is related here or not.
It's a beautiful question because it ties in directly with customer acquisition cost.
Okay.
Any ad in your life that you will run should be measured. Okay, it needs to have some kind of a tangible measurement. Let's look at this. Okay, my hardware store, I think a hardware store won't be a great idea. Let's look at something more. My grocery store. I run a grocery store in a particular locality or in a particular area, and I see that I'm doing 10 lakhs of sales every month. Okay, let's assume that number. I'm doing 10 lakhs of sales every month. Now, what I do is I put in I put in 50 small posters, and I populate the entire locality with, get 10% off or get 20% off or whatever it might be. Okay, I make, I put in roughly 50 posters like this. Now, as soon as I make put the poster in, I need to go back and check लास्ट मंथ मेरा सेल 10 लाख था, ये मंथ डिड इट रीच 11 lakhs, did it reach 12 lakhs, did it reach 15 lakhs, did it reach 20 lakhs? How much did it reach? Was there a growth?